if you go back and look at the standard 3 performance metrics for an oil and gas company, right, is cost. Get your costs right. We are a price taker in the energy industry. We don't make price. So you can't pass cost increases along to the customer. So you have to hit the cost target you set. So that's number 1. Number 2 is safety. Do you operate a safe business that doesn't hurt people and doesn't harm the environment? And number 3 is reliability, which is another way of saying how much did you reliably produce the volume you said you were going to produce. Nowhere in those 3 metrics is there innovate, change, adapt. Like, that's not part of the equation. So we have a performance metric system which blocks adoption of change.
Thanks so much for joining another edition of the never-ending climb for companies for a stronger supply chain, a stronger procurement for companies running SAP. With me today, we have Geoffrey Cann. Geoffrey should need no introduction. He is an international best-selling author. He is a professional speaker, keynotes, and others. And he is a corporate trainer that can come in to help create some of that digital innovation and create the space for it for oil and gas. Geoffrey, thank you so much for joining today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Geoffrey, what I love is the way that you have brought your wealth of experience and broad industry knowledge to help understand the things that are really tricky for organizations that are trying to move through transformation. And, you know, people talk about, many people have said that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And so many organizations have a digital transformation strategy, and it washes up on the rocks of culture. And even from a conversation I had yesterday, this is a real pain point for organizations that need help with this. What are you seeing as the cultural norm in the industry relative to the transformation that everybody is after?
Well, the norm in the industry and its patterns and behavior are really deeply rooted. They're global in nature, and they start in the education system. They're reinforced by capital markets and shareholder expectations. They are flavored by the fact that it's a commodity industry and influenced by the nature of the business model, depending on where you're at in the industry. And we're now throwing at it headwinds from decarbonization and GHG management and controls over air pollution. Not to mention, you have the occasional odd event like an insurrection or wars and invasions, which cause prices to gyrate. So the culture of this industry is set up so that is able to be resilient in the face of all of this. When it comes time to where we really need the industry to embrace change, the same cultural pattern of behavior gets in the way of embracing change quickly.
I've often had the image of one of those clowns with the weight at the bottom, and when you punch it from one of these things, it comes back up. And it is so remarkably resilient, but it comes back to the mean. It comes back to the norm. It comes back to what it's accustomed to. And I often find myself reflecting on how many organizations have this natural return to the norm. The norm is, it's the status quo, and it's kind of the way things have always been, or it's the way I was trained, or it's the way it was set up, and I'm too small of a cog to influence that. Is that something you see too?
It's very much the reality of the industry. When you think about the assets of these commodity industries, energy in particular, it's not just oil and gas, but power, pipelines, railroads. These assets, when they're engineered and designed, they're set up to meet a certain performance outcome. Throughput at a certain cost structure with a certain energy profile, and they're meant to last for decades. And so when there's a mishap, an upset, an insurrection, a war, a weather event, a change in price, the workforce mobilize to bring that asset back into alignment with its original operating parameters as set out when it was built. And that's the definition of resilience in this industry, to be resilient in the face of all of these outside pressures, most of which, of course, are outside. They're not really driven by the things going on internally. So
And that
That
investment
resilience,
decision was potentially decades ago.
much of oil and gas infrastructure predates the internet. We lose sight of this fact, but there's operating oil and gas wells that date well back into the 50s and 60s, way before computerization. We're still running. So the definition of resilience, when you think about it, is bring that asset back into alignment with its original operating parameters, and you build a system around that to reinforce that set of behavior. But that's not the definition of resilience we need now. The
Right.
definition of resilience we need now is the ability to embrace meaningful change that's positive, that also moves that asset and that operating unit or that business forward, reflective of the pressures on our society and our planet at large. And that's how I like to think about it. How do you redefine resilience? Change the meaning so
Yeah.
that you
It's
embrace change.
it's a little bit like moving the pointer on the compass, right? If the compass is still pointed at the return on investment pattern and design of the organization, the business, the asset from decades ago, very difficult to pull a Canadian analogy, skate to where the puck is going.
Yeah, precisely, because where the puck was is where the puck was supposed to be. And so the answer is always skate back to where the puck was, not here's where the puck should be going, to use the hockey analogy. That's the main shift. So you have create a cultural construct in energy that starts out in the university system where we train professionals on how to manage and maintain these assets. And they learn very quickly that, it's risky to take an asset which had a certain design envelope, performance, throughput, productivity, heat, energy consumption, and tinker with that to see where the edges are. That creates explosions in our industry. You don't do that. You don't break it just to see where it breaks. It's steady state. That's the culture.
Yeah, I've come to understand that playing with fire is strongly discouraged.
Astonishing. Even language about, explosions is very, very risky. And this is why, young people who come into the industry, the first thing they're told, they grew up with one of these things in their hands, the mobile phone, and they're told you can't take that onto our site because it's not intrinsically safe and it may cause some explosion or something. But they know no other world. Like, this is the only world they know. How does a resilient organization going to react when you bring that kind of new employee cultural norm to bear, which is they expect the world through this little pane of glass? And your model predates the internet. So you really don't permit that. How do you reconcile those two? That creates one of the biggest challenges of our industry.
Absolutely. I think that gets to such a great question of, we were touching on the demographic shift, the large
Yeah.
retirement, some of these other pressures. Can you sum that up into kind of the top 2 or 3 ways that these organizations and the culture that has been created, the culture that they're steeped in, gets in the way of the digital innovation that they're looking for and their strategy requires?
There's so many barriers, but chief among those, if you go back and look at the standard 3 performance metrics for an oil and gas company, right, is cost. Get your costs right. We are a price taker in the energy industry. We don't make price. So you can't pass cost increases along to the customer. So you have to hit the cost target you set. So that's number one. Number two is safety. Do you operate a safe business that doesn't hurt people and doesn't harm the environment? And number three is reliability, which is another way of saying how much did you reliably produce the volume you said you were going to produce? And nowhere in those 3 metrics is there innovate, change, adapt. Like, that's not part of the equation. So we have a performance metric system which blocks adoption of change. So there's problem number one. Problem number two is we have a capital market that expects certain shareholder returns and lately doesn't want to invest in energy assets that extend out beyond 10 years because they cannot see beyond 10 years now. So as a result, as just one example, the number of very large crude carriers being built in the world has collapsed. We normally build 45 to 50 new ones a year because that's the replacement rate plus growth. This year, none will be commissioned. Next year, only one will be commissioned. So we're not building the assets that we did now because capital markets don't want to invest there. And then the third, of course, the barrier that blocks or that it creates this sort of cultural norms internally is these deeply rooted patterns of how we execute business in this industry, very relationship based, very trust centric, and not particularly based on data and the holistic analysis of end to end supply chain performance that you would see in other industries. We have to unlock many of these things to get there, and you can see some of them are really hard. How do you change the performance metrics for an industry? Good question.
Yeah. It's pretty tricky.
Yeah.
It's pretty tricky.
That's when
Yeah,
you start at the top, right? That's not some junior down below going, "Oh, I want to use a mobile phone to, monitor this device." No. That's the management and the board saying, "We believe in innovation and we're going to foster that internally."
Yeah, it sure doesn't go anywhere unless it's starting from the top, does it?
Not in this industry.
One of the things that I am absolutely fascinated by is because our business makes software add-ons for SAP that help fill in that, SAP makes the 80%. We make the next like 10 to 15% for
the margin.
procurement supply chain. And it's so easy to use that we often find less than 12-month return on investment. Most industries that we support would trip over themselves for a less than 12-month return on investment. And an example from about 2 weeks ago, hey, an investment of about $500,000, which, doesn't take too senior of a person to sign off on this in a large oil and gas organization, that had a $3 to $5 million return in 3 years for, a relatively modest process change, a little bit of technology layered in. And I would tend to imagine that most industries would be tripling down the crowd to get after a return on investment. And the feedback was, well, I don't know if that's going to pass muster. I don't know if that's an attractive enough investment for us. And I'm not often speechless, Geoffrey, but I found myself going, like, the best thing I think I could muster was, please help me understand this.
Yeah.
I am really curious. How do organizations get the innovation and the automation at the scale that they require when they have a hard time biting off what most industries would consider a very attractive investment in return with high confidence? It's like this irreconcilable lack of an acceptability of the status quo and a need to innovate with this pattern of, well, we need the 10x return on a very short time horizon. Otherwise, we can't invest there.
Yeah.
And it left some of those lower mid-level leaders pretty dejected, Geoffrey. It was crushing to watch.
I don't have all the answers, of course. If I did, I would write yet another book. People know that. But I know I have some inkling as to why this takes place. The first problem is that in oil and gas, these investment concepts or possibilities, as you set out, are weighed against all of the portfolio of investment ideas that they have at that moment. And when you're up against drilling a well in a new prospect that could find a 100 million barrel reservoir, which is worth $10 billion, and it's going to cost you $5 or $10 million to go prosecute it, your $500,000 investment is weighed up against that.
Yeah.
And so there's your first problem. You're outgunned on the opportunity side. Second is the risk profile. The shareholders who invest in oil and gas companies want the opportunity to put the $5 million in to get the $10 billion prize. They're not in the investment business of putting $500,000 in to get $3 million. That's not that shareholder. So the industry is attracting a certain kind of shareholder, and therefore the investments have to reflect what those shareholders want. So that's the second problem. You got a shareholder mismatch
Capital
around
market expectations.
capital markets relative to what you've got. Yeah, exactly. So you kind of have to put these things into this context, understand the context they're up against. Third thing I would say, and this is true for the upstream industry, less so for other parts. The oil and gas industry upstream is a self-destructive business model. Every barrel of oil you take out of the ground reduces the value of your company. It's a scarcity-based business. It's a resource business. It's not software. You sell another software license, the value of your company goes up. You sell a barrel of oil, victory. You sell a barrel of oil, the value of your company goes down. So the pathway that they're on their treadmill to constantly replenish the balance sheet. And
Yeah.
therefore, every dollar has to be weighed up against that structure. Your software license, a dollar invested in oil and gas, may have both a P&L effect, an income statement effect, and a balance sheet effect. So if you're going to weigh up, present an idea inside oil and gas, just understand you're up
The
against
competition for the investment dollars is pretty
huge.
darn high.
It's high. So
Yeah.
the question then becomes, Sean, how do you take an idea and put it in front of an oil and gas investment community or investment committee and say, this is as good as investment as drilling yet another well?
Yeah. This is something where I have huge respect. I won't name them, but one of the leaders that we've had the privilege of working with had a beautiful way of presenting this.
Yep.
It's not an individual investment case, but rather a structural cost change that then benefits all of the other investment cases that are out there.
Yes.
And I thought that was a beautiful differentiation. I thought that took some, I'll say, some guts to stand up in a room full of finance professionals and say, all of these other business cases get better when you do that. How do I reflect that in here? Because it changes the cost base of the entire company
Yes.
to reduce our fixed costs. Is that something you've seen succeed elsewhere?
That particular example, yes. If you look at investments these days in tools like artificial intelligence and other machine learning tools applied across a full measure of geologic data interpretation, yes, those tools will have a leverage effect that's much bigger than just fixing a broken process in a specific part of the business. So those definitely have a leverage effect. But in the main, the pathway that I see innovations take in order to be successful, they take careful aim at safety. Remember the 3 performance metrics, right?
Yes.
Safety, make it safe. So if you improve safety, you improve the overall performance of the company in a big way. Second is if you can take cost out, not so much cost in the back office, but cost in the front office. If you can reduce cost in wells, well completions, or operations of assets, you have an enormous leverage effect over the assets. So cost out, and anything that can move your productivity up, even just a tiny bit. The challenge now in our society, we can't permit or build new infrastructure, right? Look how hard it is to build a pipeline now in Canada. It's practically impossible. So where's the prize? If you can squeak out a 0.1 or half a percentage point throughput or productivity boost through an existing pipeline, that's as good as building a new pipeline. So productivity and throughput become critical. So if you can tie your concept to those drivers, those performance metrics, you then have the correct leverage effect and the intention of the investment committee.
What I love about that is that those leveraged opportunities are a little bit trickier to demonstrate and get the agreement and buy-in.
Oh, yeah.
They often span more than one GM, more than one VP,
Yes.
which means that sometimes people who have just came out of a difficult meeting last week now need to come together and agree
Yes.
on something that would benefit both organizations. And they may both already be a little wary from some layoffs.
Oh, yes.
However, the relentless push for productivity improvements, cost structural changes, things like that, have to outweigh some of those challenging conversations that the leaders need to have and that the
Totally.
teams need to have.
Take an oil sands project. The supervisor, the manager who runs the mine operation, has an innovation to get drivers out of the trucks and do all that with remote control. And you drive that initiative forward, and boom, suddenly 4 or 5 years later, you've got a fully autonomous operations in terms of haulers.
Yeah.
But the real prize is to tie the hauler performance to the surge inventory, which sits in front of your washer crusher facility. Because you can make a very efficient trucking operation, but if you don't actually optimize the surge pile and the washer crusher, you've lowered your cost here, but nothing's changed over here. And so your net effect is much less. You took a bit of labor cost out, but you haven't lowered the level of the water in the lake. So that requires you to collaborate with not just the mine manager, but the manager is responsible for the washer crusher facility who controls the surge inventory. That inventory is huge value.
That full supply chain, right? It's the stronger supply chain, not the stronger point.
Precisely.
One stronger link doesn't create, right?
Exactly. You got to look at these things holistically. You got to think like a manufacturer does. You can't think like an oil company. You got to think like a manufacturer.
Lean manufacturing is a concept that I'm a student of and have enjoyed the application and getting my various belts in.
Yeah.
And what I love about that is it forces that look across to find every point of waste.
Yeah.
And when oil prices are flowing, there's so much waste and there's so much acceptance of it, well, that's what it costs. So off we go.
I'll tell you a story in Australia about this, which just brings this home. There was an operation whose mission was to drill 10,000 new gas wells. And they figured out they went from 1 well per week to 1 well per day in terms of productivity improvement. That's
Amazing.
a 700% productivity boost. They got blocked in finance because the legacy process in finance was the authorization for expenditure, AFE. AFEs are on a per well basis. And so to take it any further, the finance process needed to change the AFE process because that required a board meeting to authorize each well. So now you're calling a board meeting every day for the AFE process. And I sat with the finance manager and said, what's up with this? And he said, we never signed up to be part of a manufacturing company. We're an oil company, and our AFE process is going to stay exactly the way it is, thus capping their ability to improve. This is the mindset sometimes you encounter in this industry. It's just, you just scratch your head going, hang on a second. Surely we can do better.
Those moments of blocking significant innovation for the convenience of or the status quo of another department have been the end of several careers and also have been the hill to die on that is costing any corporate careers' lives. Usually is not the hill to die on. Know when to be the rock, know when to be the river is often one of those sage words of advice that have rolled with me. One of the things that I love about what you do is similar to the way we try to show up with software innovations that are very quick to go and install. You bring the ability to come in as the influencer to help organizations identify this as one of the best gifts I can imagine to some of these organizations, that their strategy demands innovation. And the status quo and the culture can stand in the way of this. Or some of the, well, my AFE process is the way the AFE process is always going to be because I'm not telling the chairman we're changing it.
Yeah.
That to me comes from a position of fear and being a massive blocker. You help organizations through this journey, don't you? Like as somebody that doesn't have a horse in the race, but just somebody who can come in and challenge some of the status quo.
Yeah, that's the whole idea, is that sometimes people who are internal to the organization find themselves unable to express, communicate, or get their organization aligned around their vision and their ideas. And they need that occasional outside voice, someone with no stake in the race, no horse, I don't sell anything, just sell ideas, nothing to gain. But I do have a point of view. And what I do is I come in and I challenge that internal reasoning to present alternative points of view that force organizations to confront some of the ways they think and help them unlock those pattern ways of thinking that block their progress. And so I do that through public speaking work principally, and also run webinars and other sessions that help organizations, particularly management teams, get their heads around the kind of changes they need to embrace.
I love that, because to me, the never-ending climb is about that continuous pursuit of better than yesterday, better than last year. For all the people that you know, love, and care about, you made commitments to, which you've made commitments to shareholders, you've made commitments to the board, to your leaders, to your team, to the customers, to your family. And sometimes it's the powerful questions that can really help you look at something through a new lens. And I want to thank you, Geoffrey, for continuing to show up for the industry to help make sure that it doesn't go the way of Kodak, who invented the bloody digital camera and then fell victim to a business model that they were too attached to. So, Geoffrey, thank you so much. And if folks are looking to get in touch with you, what's the best way to find you and get in touch with you?
Easiest is to look me up on LinkedIn or visit my website, geoffreycann.com. And there's a contact page there. You just fill in your name and number. I'm standing by to take your phone call.
Amazing. Operators are standing by. Geoffrey,
Operators
thank
standing
you.
by.
Thank you so much. Wishing you all the best and much gratitude for joining today and for showing up for the industry to help move the needle to where the puck is going. And for all of you, thank you for watching another edition of The Never Ending Climb for a Stronger Supply Chain and Procurement, the companies running SAP. Thanks, everyone.